hi there, hey there, ho there. We're as happy as can be. Bob, Eddie, Julio.
Yep.
Another session. You guys were looking for us yesterday, weren't you?
World Series edition.
Not yet. We came to you on Thursday so we could let the games play out. World Series is all over, and all I can say is wow.
You were right. You were right. You called it way back when. I mean, I hate to say you're right on your final show, on our final show. I hate to say you're right, but you were right. You got it. You called it way back when. You called the Astros, and so give credit where credit's due. I called Dodgers in 7 and I almost had it right, except the Dodgers forgot to show up for Game 7. They forgot there was. They forgot it.
It really was, and I've never been. Although about the 7th inning, you kind of saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
But up until then, you know the Dodgers are going to score 5 runs any inning now.
Yep.
It really did,
And
because of what had happened prior to that.
Well, I went to bed in the 6th. I think it was.
I fell asleep in the 6th, and that's about the time Bob said, "Hey, since you're just sleeping, I'm going home." So he left in the 7th and
8th, top of the 8th.
Is
Right
that-
after the 7th was over,
Okay.
I left. Yeah.
I was wondering because Carter asked me how much of the game I watched. I think I lasted about 10 seconds after you left.
Oh, okay.
And then I woke up and there was
I saw it till the very end.
one of the things about games on ESPN. When you wake up, at least SportsCenter is on, you know.
And you can see the highlights.
And then you can see the highlights. When you wake up, and I don't know what was on Fox at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it
That's
wasn't.
what time you woke up?
Yeah, there wasn't any on the couch right where you left me.
Wow.
That's one of the things. I know you got to play it late. It's for the rest of the country and those kind of things. But living on the East Coast, man, it was so long. The games seemed to be long. Even the short games.
5.5 hour game.
Yeah.
Game 5. That was a great game.
I know, but I didn't see it.
2:30 in the morning.
I did not see it. I saw the highlights. Which is what I watched most of.
The most ironic part about that game was it was the matchup of Game 1 pitchers.
Yeah, and it was
lasted
great pitching.
2 hours and 20 minutes, and the same two guys 5 days later.
Well, they didn't
go all night long.
Yeah. But they didn't go all night long.
Yeah.
Did
They didn't make it out of the 4th.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah. So it did take a long time. I know 5-run innings take a long time to take place when you put up crooked numbers. The Dodgers had their chances last night. I thought there were a couple of key moments in the game. The double play with 1 out. It's a tough break, but.
And you talked about that with and Coach Cardare. He actually responded, which was kind of neat.
Of course
he's
he did.
reading your Facebook.
Of course he did, because he's my friend.
Well, you complimented him, but I'll tell you what, it's not freeze on a line drive, it's tag on a line drive, is what he said.
Yeah, go back on a line drive.
Which means if that goes over his head, you don't score.
So what? You're 2nd and 3rd. Now you got the bases loaded and 1 out. Instead, you're out of the inning. Which would you rather have?
No, you're absolutely right.
If the ball gets in the gap, he's going to score anyway.
But if the next guy grounds in a double play, you blew. I mean,
but at least you give yourself a shot.
You got a guy at 2nd, and you get a single to left with 1 out. You're scoring. You need to score that run. You don't want to.
But the problem is you need to know where your shortstop is playing.
That's huge.
And the line drive that's anywhere close, you go back. If you don't score on that play, you give your.
And he didn't jump. It wasn't like a spectacular.
No, it hit him right in the hand.
Yeah,
right. Hit him right in the face. If you don't score, at least you give yourself another shot to hit a fly ball and score on a sac fly. Right. The way it ends up there is you're out of the inning because you line into a double play, and that's Cardiere's approach and always has been. And when I was chaplain for them 100 years ago when he was younger, that was always what he preached.
You were younger too.
I was. We all were. And see, some of the players even responded that heard him about all the other stuff that he would say, all of his neat little sayings. So it's kind of good to have that reminiscence. But, he might have still been out, but you probably don't even draw a throw there if you're moving back because you don't risk throwing the ball in the right field and hit the runner.
It was easy.
He could have walked it over at that point because if you break to 3rd, you're out.
You're done. And
that's why people coach that to freeze. But the problem is when you freeze, you're not going back. So even if he catches it, you're out. You've got to be moving back in order to be safe, else you're going to be out. But hey, it was what it was, and there were a couple other times I thought a big at back, when they had 1st and 3rd, and they didn't get a run in. Mm-hmm. I thought that was a huge at bat, and that's about the time I went to bed because I'm like, if they're not score there, it's over.
You know what's interesting? I thought on Game 6 when the Astros were leading 1-0, and then the 1 inning where they scored the 2 runs off of Verlander to go up 2-1, and then eventually they scored a 3rd as well. The big at bat in that situation, and there was so many, and there was same thing similar yesterday, and they didn't take advantage of it. But I thought the biggest at bat in that Game 6, did you see that game?
Part of it.
Was the hit by pitch by Utley. I think that made it's man at first, he's been dealing, and all of a sudden he's 1-2, and he hits him on the toe.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, boom, the swing late line drive down the line ties the game, and then the deep sack fly puts them ahead, and they wind up winning the game. And then yesterday, McCullers hit 4 guys in 3 innings.
Turner twice. I mean, he was all over
and they
the place.
didn't take advantage of the hit
No,
batters.
no.
Effectively wild.
And
That's
how many
definition.
times? I'm sorry, Eddie. How many times did Bellinger come up? It seemed like with guys on and either struck out or
Oh, they had the plan for him.
yeah, completely.
And if you can execute the plan, then it's great. But if you miss, he kills you.
He could not lay off that inside pitch.
And that's what happened. I mean, that's what happened. I think the Astros pitched better in the crucial moments, obviously, than the Dodgers did. And I thought the Dodgers played pretty well. I mean, I still think the Dodgers may be the best team, but clearly the Astros had a better series.
Well, the 7 games.
Springer had a better series than most teams.
Oh, he was awesome.
Well, Springer had 29 total bases. You know how many at bats he had?
No.
29. So
That's one.
Wow.
That is a 1,000 slugging percentage.
That's a one.
It is a 1.
It's not
You know,
1,000.
They do
it's a
say
one.
1,000.
I don't know why though, but
Wow.
Because if
there's a
'cause it's
decimal
not-
point in there, right?
Yeah, but you don't hit .399. You hit 399.
But you should hit .399 because there's a decimal point there. So if you're not gonna say it, you shouldn't put it in. It's
So
not
he
point.
hit 1.0 and
Right.
He slugged
He
1,000.
slugged 1,000.
Unbelievable.
There
Or
you
one.
go. See. No, you said 1,000.
Well, I know, but I mean, just because you say it doesn't make it right.
That's
if you if you don't want to say that, then don't put that.
Wow.
7 games, and you talk about Bellinger with the 17 strikeouts. You know,
World Series record. Way to go. Way to go.
Well, the only reason,
I
he
remember-
set that record is
I
because Judge
remember-
wasn't in the series.
Was it-
If Judge is in the series, that record goes down in 4 games.
you know, remember when Willie Wilson struck out like his first 10 at bats?
Yes.
And when they were saying that record, I go, Willie Wilson had to have struck out at least 25 times in that one.
He didn't get that many at bats.
Yeah.
That must have been it.
He was
He was the
really
lead.
well.
Remember, I just
Yeah.
remember he
Yeah,
struck
I remember
out
that.
like
A lot. I
a
remember.
lot. And but here was the thing. Even though he struck out 17, it was a quarter of the in 7 games they had 65 strikeouts.
That's a lot.
That's more than 9 a game.
Yeah.
You know, and
You're striking out 9 a game. You usually don't win unless you're the Yankees,
right.
which somehow they managed to strike out 10 times a game and win.
You know, they hit and just looking, the Dodgers 65 strikeouts, they hit 205, and they came
Within a game.
within
Yeah,
a game of
really
winning the
hard.
World Series.
It's kind of like the Gators, who hit about 205 and won the College World Series. You know, they just needed one dominant pitching performance along the way in a game. Darvish killed him. Whatever you want to say in postseason, he had 2 bad outs. Maybe it's a bad matchup. Maybe he didn't pitch well. But those 2 games,
And when
are
I watched the
different
celebration, they had Verlander on. All I could think was, here's 2 teams that actually went out at the trading deadline, especially the Astros, at the 11th hour and got Verlander.
we talked about that when it
And-
happened
yeah.
as the most important trade of.
And there
Was
was
Verlander?
Yeah. And the Dodgers went and got Darvish, and but they were both in the World Series. But look what happened. Verlander was
Well, and last,
game 1. He was really on. I mean, it was,
look at last year. You know, with the Andrew
Chapman.
with Andrew.
Yeah.
I mean, remember last year, and it's so incredible about, and it just shows about the Yankees getting younger and what they were able to accomplish this year. I mean, last
amazing.
year, here they are, and they wind up. They didn't have one closer.
They had 2.
They had 2. And all of a sudden, both of those closers are facing each other in the World Series.
Yeah.
You know, and they went out and did it. That's how with Miller and Chapman. I mean, they made teams making moves. And is it because the teams making moves are being successful, or there's so many teams making moves that regardless of who makes it, you need to make a move to get there, so you can point to that team's move wound up.
Well, I think.
Paying off
Well, I
more
think
than-
this. I think for the Astros, they needed another pitcher. I mean, they needed another quality starter. I don't think they get there without Verlander, even down the stretch.
No.
Well, they might get there, but I don't think they make. If they get the postseason without Verlander, I don't think they make it through.
Right. Well, he was 9, in the World Series. He wound up losing that one game, but finished 1-1. I'm sure. Where is he?
Somewhere on there.
But down the
There he is,
stretch
just-
for them, he had like a 1.
2 games, 2 starts, 3.75 ERA. Well, he was 0-1. He didn't get a win in that first game.
No, he didn't. And I think that was the thing is everything was late innings. So even when I went to bed last night, I thought, well, shoot, you could wake up and it could be 13-12 again. Because,
Right. Oh, no, that's what I was saying.
because-
I really did. I did not think they were out of it.
But I they had this feel about it. I think that one of the things that would be interesting, and maybe during the break we'll look it up to see how many. Maybe I don't know how many seventh games in the World Series. What the record is for the home team.
Well, I know the last 3 this year, last year, in 2014, the visiting team has won.
So we'll look that
And
up.
that's
during the
never
break.
been. I know the most hated one I have is the '87 when my Cardinals were in there against the Twins, and it became the first and only, still to this day, 7-game series where the home team won every single game. You know, it what?
I know that.
The Twins won 2, the Cardinals won the middle 3, the Twins won the last 2. I know in the game 7 I was in, we won at home. Renteria's hit their scoring council in the bottom of the 11th. Still the only extra inning game 7 game in history that if that had been L.A. market or New York market, it probably would have gone down as the greatest
Game in the
7
history.
ever in the history of baseball. But it was the Indians and the Marlins and.
And who cares,
And
right?
who cares, But you tie a game in the bottom of the 9th, and then you win in the 11th.
That's a pretty.
That's a pretty exciting.
It was a pretty good night. I remember watching that night. I remember hearing your voice and going, "Hey, I know that voice."
Yeah, and we did talking about, and we didn't
just
cover
had-
it, but last Friday we had a
Yeah.
reunion
Oh,
down
yeah.
in Miami. It was the exact 20th anniversary to the day of the end of that World Series, and it was a lot of fun. Didn't have a lot of players show up. Had a few. Saw Charles Johnson, saw Cliff Floyd, a few others, but it was exciting. And the people you work with day in and day out, a lot of the front office people you hadn't seen in years and years. The players, Charles Johnson was telling me that about a month ago, the Marlins recognized them on the field and they brought them all back and they, unveiled the little banner in the outfield and the whole shebang, and they had the team out there for pregame ceremony, and they had a golf tournament that day before the game and all this kind of stuff. So a lot of the out-of-town players came in a month ago, and they weren't going to turn around again and fly into Miami to come see Julio. Although, man, they would have gotten to see him.
They would have gotten to see Julio.
How can you miss that opportunity?
But it was a lot of fun seeing all those people, and the team photographer was out there, looking a lot older than he was before, but still flashing away. And then people are like,
Weren't we
"Hey,
all?"
besides you, I may never get that one. Can you take that one picture with this?" And he looks at his cell phone and he goes, "These things right here are going to put me out of business because the quality's almost exactly the same as what I do with my
Yeah.
And it was kind of interesting, but it was a lot of fun, and it's been 20 years. Those things. Can you imagine?
No, I cannot. It's freaking me out.
20 years. Well, the Marlins have been in existence for 25.
That's even
That's
harder.
even
to
more-
me.
25
more
years for
freaking
the
me out.
Marlins.
Wow,
That's how long. And,
Yeah.
and the most recent expansion was 20 years ago.
that's pretty impressive.
And
Yeah.
you sit there and you still think of the Rays and the Diamond as expansion
Diamondbacks, yeah.
teams.
No,
But they're not
that's
really
nice.
anymore. They're just normal teams.
Yeah.
No. The one expansion team that's never won a World Series or been to a World
Tampa
Series.
Bay. Never won a World Series. The Rays haven't won a World Series.
But they've been to a World
Oh,
Series.
they've been to one.
And the Rangers have been to one.
Yeah.
I guess they've all been to one. Yeah.
Yep.
Nobody's won it though.
Nope.
What? No.
They didn't win it.
But
Maybe
that
this year.
expansion team, Texas Rangers, has been a long.
Long time. Yeah. Washington Senators first. Real quick before we sign off the first section, this Saturday in Jacksonville, the Mandarin Ramada Inn, Jacksonville Sports Cards monthly card show. This is just tea right here. This is just tea, and it's spilled over the seat. Anyway, monthly card show, 9:00. If you want to have a good time, come out, make some new friends. If you're into cards, sports memorabilia, it's a really good time. But 9:00 this Saturday at the
We're gonna talk-
Mandarin Ramada Inn.
Mandarin Ramada.
Mandarin, not
Mandarin
Miranda.
Ramada.
Mandarin.
hard
That's
to say.
why. It's hard to say. You have
I
the
know.
right to remain silent.
I know.
You were
Anything you
Mirandized.
say. That's why
I was
you've been
Mirandized,
Mirandized.
yeah, I know. That's
Hey, we'll
weird.
be right back. Talk more about the World Series.
Yep, got something else.